Have you ever found yourself, lying awake at 3 a.m., just replaying some tiny social thing, or maybe catastrophizing about something coming up?
Well, someone else is just sound asleep next to you.
Exactly. Totally
Exactly.
unbothered. It makes you wonder, why are some of us seemingly wired for anxiety, always expecting the worst, while others just seem so naturally calm?
It's a really common question.
Well, today we're diving deep into that. We're going to try and unpack what makes some personalities more uh, anxiety prone. We'll look at this whole web of factors, biology, your childhood stuff, even just the world we live in now.
Yeah.
And the goal here, it's really not about blame. It's about getting some real self-understanding, maybe some compassion. Because if you do struggle with anxiety all the time, we want you to get this. You're not broken.
Not at all.
You're actually responding, maybe in an overwhelming way sometimes, but a perfectly normal way to a really complex mix of things.
That's spot on. Anxiety isn't some kind of, moral failing or weakness. It's human. It actually serves important purposes. So this deep dive, it isn't about getting rid of anxiety completely. That's probably not realistic or even desirable. It's about understanding its roots so deeply you can start to manage it.
So it doesn't run your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe even change your whole relationship with it.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we have to start right at the foundation, the biological blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources show pretty clearly there is a significant genetic piece to anxiety disorders. Like if your parent or sibling has anxiety, you're maybe 2 to 6 times more likely to develop it too.
That's right. Those numbers are pretty consistent in the research.
But it's not like inheriting, I don't know, the anxiety gene, is it? What are we actually inheriting?
That's such a crucial distinction. You don't inherit the disorder itself, like inheriting brown eyes. You inherit tendencies, predispositions.
Okay.
Think of it like inheriting the plans for a house. It suggests the style, maybe, but you still choose the paint, the furniture, how you live in it.
Right.
So some people, for instance, they might inherit something called anxiety sensitivity.
What's that?
It basically means they have a sort of heightened awareness of their own body sensations. Heart racing, palms getting sweaty, feeling flush.
Normal stuff, yeah.
Normal stuff. But their brain is just a bit quicker to interpret those sensations as threatening, as danger signals, even when they're totally harmless.
Okay. So it's like their internal alarm system is just set way more sensitive from the get-go.
Precisely, yeah. And it goes deeper into brain chemistry, too.
Uh-huh.
Our sources talk a lot about differences in how neurotransmitters work. These are the brain's chemical messengers.
Like serotonin.
Exactly. Serotonin that affects mood, sleep, anxiety. It might be out of balance. Or GABA, which is basically the brain's brake pedal.
Okay.
It calms things down. If GABA isn't working optimally, the brain just struggles to, hit the brakes on anxiety. And even dopamine, involved in motivation and reward, seems to play a role in how we react to stress.
And this is where it gets really fascinating for me.
Yeah.
It's not just the chemicals floating around, right? The sources suggest there might be actual structural differences in the brain.
Yes, that's what brain imaging is starting to show us.
Can you walk us through that? You mentioned an analogy before, the smoke detector.
Right. So for someone prone to anxiety, it's often like having a smoke detector that screeches for burnt toast.
Yeah.
While someone else's only goes off for an actual fire, that super sensitive detector, that's kind of like your amygdala.
The brain's alarm system.
The brain's primal alarm system. In anxious folks, it can be more reactive, firing off danger signals more often, more intensely.
Okay.
And at the same time, you might see less activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's your rational thinking center.
The part that should say, hey, it's just toast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That part isn't as loud, maybe, or as effective in calming the amygdala down. And even the hippocampus, which deals with memory and learning, can show differences. That affects how we store and recall stressful memories and how we respond next time.
Wow. It's amazing how physically wired this can be.
It really is. And this connects to some fascinating research on temperament by Jerome Kagan.
Hi.
He studied babies and found about 20% are born with what he called high reactive temperaments.
High reactive.
Meaning they're just more sensitive to new things, new sounds, new people. They're more cautious. They show a bigger physiological stress response, faster heart rate, more stress hormones.
And these babies often grow up to be.
Well, not always, but yeah, many do grow into more anxious children and adults. It suggests this biological sensitivity is there right from the start for some people.
So the big takeaway from this whole biology part isn't just genes matter. It's more like your genes load the gun, maybe?
That's a common way to put it.
But your environment, your experiences, They kind of pull the trigger. Your inherited sensitivities are like the canvas, maybe.
I like that. Yeah, the canvas, not the finished painting.
Because what happens next, especially in early life, seems to be incredibly important in shaping how those predispositions actually play out.
Absolutely crucial.
Which brings us right to early experiences, say from birth up to maybe age 7. How does that period literally sculpt the brain's anxiety circuits?
Well, during those first years, the brain is incredibly malleable. It's like wet cement. It's rapidly forming connections, neural pathways based on experience.
Okay.
And your relationships with your main caregivers, parents, usually are fundamental in shaping your sort of internal blueprint for safety and connection.
Attachment theory stuff.
Exactly. If you had caregivers who were consistently responsive and available, you likely developed a secure attachment. You feel fundamentally safe. But if, like our example, Sarah, maybe your caregivers were inconsistent or overly anxious themselves or just emotionally distant, you might develop an anxious attachment style. And this isn't just about relationships later on. It creates this chronic feeling of uncertainty inside you.
So you're always looking for reassurance.
Constantly seeking reassurance, yeah. Being hyper aware of other people's moods, finding it hard to trust good things, maybe assuming the worst is about to happen.
And then there's trauma, childhood trauma, which we know plays a huge role. But our sources really broaden that idea beyond just, the really obvious, terrible stuff.
That's a really critical point. When we talk about developmental trauma shaping anxiety, it's a much wider net.
So what does that include?
It can be things like growing up with parents who were super critical or perfectionistic, making you feel like you were never quite good enough.
Right.
Or maybe difficult medical experiences, hospital stays. Persistent bullying is a big one. Even ongoing family stress like financial worries or parents divorcing.
Or being the kid who had to sort of parent their parents.
Parentification, yes. Taking on adult worries and responsibilities too early. These aren't just, bad memories. They fundamentally shape the brain.
How so?
Your developing brain learns the world is unpredictable, maybe it's dangerous, maybe I'm not safe to just be me. So it becomes hypervigilant, always scanning for threats, always on guard.
So if someone like Sarah had a mom who was anxious and maybe a dad who was critical, she's kind of getting it from both sides.
Yeah. Exactly. She's absorbing it on multiple levels. Kids are like emotional sponges, aren't they?
Totally.
They soak up not just what parents say, but how they feel, how they react. If you saw your parents constantly worrying or avoiding things that made them anxious, you likely learned those patterns.
Just pick them up.
Internalize them as normal. And then there's the whole idea of intergenerational trauma, these patterns getting passed down, not just through learned behavior, but maybe even through subtle epigenetic changes affecting how genes are expressed.
Wow. And school too, right? Feeling rejected, struggling with the work, just feeling different. That can stick with you.
Oh, definitely. Those early school experiences can lay down really stubborn tracks for social anxiety, for self-doubt that can last a lifetime.
So the key thing here is that the childhood brain was actually trying to protect itself, right? Developing anxiety or hypervigilance might have made perfect sense back then.
It was adaptive. It was trying to cope with the environment it found itself in. The problem is those protective strategies often hang around long after they're needed.
They become automatic.
They become automatic responses, yeah. Even when you're actually in a much safer situation as an adult.
Okay, so we've got the biology, the early experiences. Now let's talk about personality traits and thinking patterns. The things that kind of mix together to create this perfect storm for ongoing anxiety.
Right. Where do we start?
Well, perfectionism seems like a big one in the sources.
Huge. Yeah. Perfectionists set these incredibly high, often unattainable standards for themselves.
And tie their self-worth to meeting them.
Completely. It's not just about wanting to do well. It's this intense pressure to be flawless. And there are different types, but one that's really linked to anxiety is what they call socially prescribed perfectionism.
What's that?
It's that constant feeling that other people expect you to be perfect, that you're always being judged, always falling short in others' eyes. It's exhausting.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. What about high sensitivity? I hear that term, HSP. How does that fit in?
Right, being a highly sensitive person, or HSP. Based on Elaine Aron's research, it's thought to be about 20% of the population. It's not a flaw, it's more like a different neurological setup.
Okay.
HSPs process sensory information, sights, sounds, emotions more deeply. They tend to be more affected by other people's moods, get overwhelmed more easily by, say, noisy environments or busy
And
schedule.
need more quiet time.
Definitely need more downtime to sort of process everything. Now, in our super fast-paced, often overwhelming world, this deep processing can easily feel like anxiety or present as anxiety, even though it's just how their nervous system is built.
That makes a lot of sense. Explains why someone might feel totally wiped out after a party, even a fun one.
Exactly.
Okay, what else? People-pleasing, that feels like a classic.
Oh, absolutely. A huge driver of chronic anxiety. Because if you're constantly trying to please everyone, you're always monitoring their reactions, right?
Yes, scanning the room.
Scanning the room, trying to anticipate needs, often suppressing your own needs and feelings to avoid conflict or upsetting anyone.
And that leads to that rejection sensitivity you mentioned.
Often, yes. This intense, almost painful fear of being disliked, disapproved of, or abandoned. It turns every interaction into a potential minefield.
Okay, now what about neuroticism? That's one of the big 5 personality traits, isn't it? How does that connect?
It is, yeah. Neuroticism is basically a general tendency toward experiencing negative emotions, worry, fear, sadness, irritability.
So people higher in neuroticism just feel those things more often, more intensely.
Pretty much. They're more likely to see neutral situations as potentially threatening, and they often find it harder to kind of regulate their emotional responses once they get going. Their emotional baseline might just be set a bit lower, making them more vulnerable to anxiety.
And then there's that mental hamster wheel,
Yeah.
rumination,
Ugh, yes. Probably one of the biggest things that maintains anxiety once it starts.
just going over and over things.
An endless loop, yeah. What if this happens? Why did I say that? Replaying conversations, trying to mentally solve problems that either aren't real problems or haven't happened yet.
But it feels like you're doing something useful.
Your brain thinks it's being productive by worrying, but it's just spinning its wheels, digging the anxiety groove deeper without actually finding solutions or peace.
Then there's intolerance of uncertainty. Some people just really hate not knowing.
Desperately.
Yeah.
For some individuals, ambiguity, not knowing what's going to happen, is incredibly distressing. They need answers, they need plans, they need to eliminate the unknown.
So any unclear situation just sparks anxiety.
Big time. It's a major, major driver for many people with chronic anxiety.
And of course, catastrophic thinking. That jump to the absolute worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah. That vague email from the boss doesn't mean, let's discuss the project. It instantly means, I'm getting fired, I'll lose my house, I'll be homeless.
Right. 0 to disaster in seconds.
And that often connects to all or nothing thinking, too, black and white thinking.
No gray areas.
None. Everything is either amazing or terrible, safe or deadly, a success or a total failure. It wipes out all the nuance, all the middle ground where, let's face it, most of life actually happens.
It's just so important to remember, though, that these patterns, as unhelpful as they feel now, they probably started as coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
For someone growing up in that critical or unpredictable home we talked about.
Absolutely. Being hypervigilant, trying to control everything, trying to be perfect, seeking approval, those might have been really smart ways to navigate a difficult environment, to feel safer or just less anxious in the moment.
But then they get stuck on autopilot.
Exactly. They become automatic habits that persist long after the original situation has changed, causing problems in the present.
Okay, so we have the biology, the early life stuff laying the groundwork, then these personality traits and thinking patterns feeding the fire. Now, let's look at how the world we live in today just seems to crank up the heat on all of this.
Yeah, the modern world is definitely an anxiety amplifier, especially for those already predisposed.
Where do we even begin? Information overload.
That's a huge one. Just the sheer volume. Our brains, they evolved to handle immediate local threats as the lion in the bushes.
Right. Not global pandemics and political chaos 24/7.
Exactly. Now we're bombarded constantly with news of global catastrophes, social media drama, political fights. It's coming at us all the time from everywhere.
Keeping that alarm system switched on.
Chronically activated, yeah. For someone already prone to anxiety, it's just relentless.
And social media specifically. That deserves its own mention, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. These platforms are literally designed to grab and hold your attention, and often that's through content that triggers anxiety or outrage.
And the comparison trap.
Massive. You're constantly seeing these curated, perfect-looking highlight reels of other people's lives, which, if you're already feeling insecure or perfectionistic,
Oof, yeah.
it's just brutal. Plus, you've got FOMO, the fear of missing out, and this often unhealthy need for validation through likes and comments. It's like a Perfect storm for social anxiety and low self-worth.
And for a lot of people, just basic economic uncertainty is humming in the background constantly.
That low-level hum, yeah. Worry about jobs, the cost of living going up, debt. It creates this chronic anxiety about just basic security.
Feeling precarious.
Precisely. And even just living in cities, the noise, the crowds, the traffic, that can be incredibly taxing, especially for more sensitive people. It keeps the nervous system kind of perpetually keyed up.
Not much chance to really relax.
Very little. And then there's modern work culture.
Oh, boy.
Right. The expectation to be always on, reachable 24/7, intense competition, less job security than maybe our parents had, unclear boundaries between work and life, even open plan offices.
No escape.
No escape. It all contributes to chronic stress and feeling anxious.
And our lifestyles themselves often don't help.
No, often they work directly against us. Too much caffeine, especially if you're sensitive, that's like anxiety in a mug.
Guilty.
Processed foods, sugar highs, and crashes that messes with your internal stability. Not getting enough sleep is huge, being too sedentary, and just, increasing social isolation for many people, all major contributors.
It's funny, we have so much choice now, but that seems to cause anxiety too.
The paradox of choice, yeah. It's a real thing. Having endless options for everything from Netflix shows to career paths can lead to decision fatigue, overwhelm, and anxiety, especially if you already hate uncertainty.
And we can't not mention climate anxiety. That seems really prevalent now, especially for younger people.
Very much so. That feeling of helplessness and dread about the future of the planet, it's a significant source of anxiety for many.
So really, the takeaway here is our modern world throws challenges at us that our kind of Stone Age brains weren't really designed for.
Exactly.
And if you're someone already predisposed to anxiety because of biology or early life, it's like being asked to run a marathon when you're already feeling exhausted.
And someone turn the volume way up while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Right.
let's pull all these threads together now. How do they weave into this anxiety spiral, that cycle that makes anxiety feel so permanent, so inescapable?
All right, the self-reinforcing loop.
Let's use our example, Sarah. We know she's got some inherited sensitivity, grew up with criticism, developed perfectionism and people-pleasing to cope. Now she's an adult, high-pressure job, maybe too much social media, not enough sleep, lots of coffee. What does that spiral actually look like for her day-to-day?
Okay, let's trace it. It starts with a trigger. Could be tiny. Let's say her boss sends a vague email. Need to talk tomorrow.
Okay, classic anxiety trigger.
Totally. For Sarah, given her background and tendencies, the immediate interpretation isn't neutral. It's anxious. I'm in trouble.
Which quickly goes to
Catastrophic thinking. I'm going to get fired. This thought instantly triggers physical symptoms, heart pounds, stomach churns, muscles get tight.
fight or flight kicking in.
Exactly. Her behavioral response then is probably aimed at trying to control the situation, reduce the uncertainty. Maybe she obsessively checks her email for clues. Maybe she avoids walking past her boss's office. Maybe she tries to subtly pump colleagues for information, seeking reassurance.
Trying to feel safer.
Trying to feel safer. Then, later, maybe she sees her boss in the hallway and they have a neutral expression. But Sarah's confirmation bias kicks in.
Ah, she sees what she expects to see.
Right. She interprets that neutral face as proof. See? They are displeased. This worry then completely disrupts her sleep. She's lying awake all night, replaying scenarios.
So the next day,
She's exhausted physically and mentally, on edge, even more sensitive to stress. Now, let's say the actual conversation with the boss is fine. It was about a minor project update.
okay, relief.
Temporary relief. Because almost immediately, a new worry pops up. Okay, it was fine this time, but what about next time? Or maybe they were just being nice. Or she starts worrying about something else entirely. The spiral doesn't really break.
It just finds a new focus.
Okay.
Wow, that's so vivid.
And it's crucial to understand why that cycle feels so sticky, right? What are the psychological gears grinding away there?
Yes, there are some really powerful psychological principles keeping that spiral going. First up is negative reinforcement.
How does that work? When Sarah avoids her boss or obsessively checks email, she gets a temporary drop in anxiety. Phew, relief.
Right.
Her brain immediately learns, aha, avoiding or checking works. It makes the bad feeling go away for a bit.
So it reinforces the avoidance.
Exactly. It reinforces the very behavior that keeps her trapped long term because she never learns that the feared thing probably won't happen or that she could actually cope if it did.
Okay. What else?
Confirmation bias, which we saw with the boss's expression. Anxious minds act like filters, selectively noticing anything that confirms the fear while ignoring or discounting evidence to the contrary.
Makes sense.
Then there are safety behaviors. These are all the little things people do to try and feel safer in anxious
Like
situations.
always having your phone
Uh,
or needing a friend to come with you, over-preparing.
all of those.
Yeah.
The paradox is, while they feel helpful, they actually maintain the anxiety. You attribute feeling okay to the safety behavior, I only got through the party because my friend was there,
Yeah.
not to your own ability to cope.
Mm.
You never really test the fear without the crutch.
Who-
There's also worry as attempted problem solving. The brain kind of tricks itself into thinking that by worrying, it's preparing or preventing disaster.
But it's just ruminating.
Exactly. For most future worries, it's not productive problem solving, it's just that mental hamster wheel, increasing distress without actually changing anything.
And then the world just starts to shrink, doesn't it?
That's the anxiety avoidance cycle. Anxiety leads to avoiding situations, which brings temporary relief, reinforcing the avoidance, which then makes you more anxious about facing those situations in the future. Your world gets smaller and smaller.
Until you're avoiding lots of things.
And finally, somatic amplification.
Mm.
When you're already anxious, you become hyper-tuned in to normal body sensations, a little flutter, a bit of dizziness, and you interpret those normal signals as signs of danger, illness, or catastrophe,
Which makes you more anxious.
which makes the physical symptoms worse, which makes you more anxious. Another vicious loop.
It's so clear from all this. People aren't choosing this. They're caught. Caught in these patterns that maybe once, made sense or felt protective.
Precisely. It's a trap, not a choice.
But here's the really hopeful part. The empowering truth. Understanding why. Understanding all these threads, the biology, the history, the patterns. That is the absolute crucial first step to changing your relationship with anxiety.
It really is. You can't go back and change your genes or your childhood.
Right.
But you absolutely can change how you respond now, and our sources constantly highlight neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change.
Its amazing ability to rewire itself to form new pathways throughout your entire life. Every single time you choose a different response to anxiety, maybe it's just taking a deep breath, maybe it's challenging one of those catastrophic thoughts, maybe it's taking one tiny step towards facing something you fear, you are literally reshaping your brain.
That's incredibly powerful.
And this leads right into self-compassion, which is so vital.
Because people beat themselves up for feeling anxious.
Constantly, which, as we've seen, just adds another layer of suffering. But if you can start to understand, okay, this anxiety makes sense, given my wiring, given my history, then you can approach it with maybe some curiosity, some kindness, instead of frustration and judgment.
And that understanding allows for much more targeted help.
Exactly. If there's a strong biological component, maybe medication discussed with a doctor, it could be really helpful. If deep-seated trauma is the root, then trauma-specific therapies like EMDR might be key.
And if it's mainly those thinking patterns, CBT.
Cognitive behavioral therapy can be fantastic for identifying and shifting those unhelpful thought loops and behaviors. If high sensitivity is a big factor, learning to manage your environment, manage stimulation, set boundaries, that becomes crucial.
And for perfectionism.
Working on self-worth, learning to embrace good enough instead of demanding impossible perfection, it's about matching the intervention to the roots of the problem for you.
And we can't underestimate lifestyle changes, can we? Especially with how the modern world affects us.
Absolutely not. These are often foundational. Really looking at things like caffeine intake, maybe trying digital detoxes or setting firm boundaries with screens. Getting regular movement doesn't have to be intense, just moving your body, prioritizing sleep hygiene, eating in a way that keeps your blood sugar stable, finding stress reduction practices that work for you, meditation, yoga, time in nature.
These aren't just add-ons.
They are fundamental pillars for calming the nervous system. Seriously impactful.
And building distress tolerance.
Yep.
That sounds important.
Yeah.
Not trying to make the anxiety vanish instantly.
Yes. Learning that you can feel anxious and still function, tolerating the discomfort while still taking steps toward your goals or values, that is how you break the avoidance cycle, by proving to yourself you can handle the feeling without running away.
And creating safety where you can. Predictability.
Huge. Where possible, building routines, creating a calming home space, nurturing supportive, reliable relationships, these things help signal safety to that overactive alarm system.
And what about actually facing the fears? Exposure therapy.
Gradual exposure, yes, it's incredibly powerful. It's about carefully, and usually with support, facing feared situations in small, manageable steps. You're literally retraining the amygdala, teaching it, see, this situation you thought was dangerous, it's actually okay. You can handle it. It helps you reclaim parts of your life anxiety might have stolen.
So the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to become anxiety-free forever, That's probably not realistic.
Not realistic and maybe not even the point. Anxiety does have a function.
No, it's more about stopping anxiety from running the show, from making your decisions for you, from keeping your world small.
Exactly that. And if you heard yourself in our conversation today, if a lot of this resonated, please hear this. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with you.
Yeah.
Your anxiety makes sense in the context of all these factors we've discussed. You are not weak for struggling with this. In so many cases, as we said, anxiety started as an intelligent adaptation. Your brain was trying to protect you.
It was doing its job, maybe too well.
Maybe too well or based on past information that's no longer relevant. But the amazing news is, just like your brain learned those patterns, it can learn new ones. Healing is possible.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who identify with that high sensitivity piece, remember, that's not a flaw. It can be a source of incredible creativity, empathy, intuition. It can be a superpower, truly, once you learn how to manage the overwhelm. The whole key is finding the right combination of strategies for your unique blend of factors.
There's no one-size-fits-all fix.
Definitely not.
So maybe a little homework for everyone listening this week. Just practice some self-compassion.
Love that.
When you notice that anxiety bubbling up, instead of the usual frustration, maybe just pause. Try saying to yourself something like, okay, this feeling makes sense given my history, given how I'm wired. What do I need right now? What might help me feel just a little bit safer or more grounded?
That shift from judgment to curiosity is huge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And please remember, reaching out for professional help therapy, doctors, support groups, that is not weakness. That is strength. That's taking active steps to reclaim your well-being.
Absolutely. It's a sign you're ready for change.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into where anxiety comes from. Understanding really is the first step. And change, even small change, is always, always possible.
Be kind to yourselves out there.
Be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
You're probably doing better than you think.